as grievers, we cannot hate ourselves into better versions of ourselves. Criticism has not worked in the past. It's not working for you right now. It will not work in the future. And yet so many grieving people spend their days, hours and hours, mentally tearing themselves apart at the seams for not handling their loss better. Hi there, grief growers. I am so grateful to be here with you on the show today, as always. If you've been growing alongside me in my work for a while, welcome back. And if you are new to me and my work, hello. My name is Shelby Forsythia. I'm a grief coach, a 3-time author, and the founder of Life After Loss Academy. I have had the distinct honor of helping thousands of grieving people stop feeling lost, stuck, broken, and alone, and start building lives that they genuinely love from the lives loss forced them to live. This includes not only death-related losses, but also losses like divorce and breakup, major diagnosis, and every other loss that changes your life. Here on Grief Grower, we believe that grief is not something to get over. It is something that we grow with and alongside, and that by treating grief less like a problem to be solved and more like an invitation to live more deeply, we create meaningful lives that are rich with the memories we carry, the struggles that we have faced, and the precious awareness of what it is to be right here and right now. Today on the show, I'm covering something that a lot of grieving people don't know necessarily to ask outright, but that a lot of grieving people internally struggle with, and that is how to be more compassionate to yourself in grief with one single phrase. This is a tool that I developed inside Life After Loss Academy many, many years ago, and it is something that rewrites the inner story of your life with grief or your life after loss in ways that even at the time I created it, I did not see possible. But it is rooted in this reality that after a loss, it can be such a struggle to speak to yourself kindly. So many grievers that I hear from, so many that I work with say things like, I am judging myself for not being able to do the things that I used to do, or for being more tearful or more forgetful, as Megan Devine would call it, I left my keys in the freezer syndrome, or for not performing as well as they want to at work or school. But something that I believe, and that I had to learn the hard way after my mom died in 2013, is this. It is, if criticizing yourself fixed everything, every single one of us would be 110% healed. I'm going to say that one more time. If criticizing ourselves fixed everything, we would all be 110% healed. If self-criticism actually worked in the way that our brains kind of trick us into thinking it's working, if beating ourselves up over how off we've been since our losses actually made us more capable or more functional or more like our old selves, wouldn't we all be done grieving by now? Wouldn't our harsh inner critics have fixed us already? What I have learned in 13 years of grieving and almost 10 years of working with grieving people facing all kinds of losses, as I said at the top of the show, death, divorce, diagnosis, the 3Ds, and more, I have realized that as grievers, we cannot hate ourselves into better versions of ourselves. Criticism has not worked in the past. It's not working for you right now. It will not work in the future. And yet so many grieving people spend their days, hours and hours, mentally tearing themselves apart at the seams for not handling their loss better. So today on the show, I'm going to share the difference between critical self-talk and compassionate self-talk after a loss. Do you even know the way that you are talking to yourself after grief? I will share the one simple phrase that I invented that you can use today, right now, in this moment as you're listening, to instantly soften how you talk to yourself in your head. The psychology and the research, because there is psychology and research behind why this linguistic shift works, especially for grieving people, and how this specific tool fits into a much bigger practice of weaving or integrating loss into your life. Before we get into it, I do have to say, if you have been hard on yourself since your loss, there is nothing wrong with you. You are not doing grief wrong. You are doing something incredibly difficult while also being a human being operating on planet Earth, which for a lot of us, I think for all of us with brains, like our brains often default to judgment instead of tenderness when we don't have better tools. When there is pain in our brain, it often reaches for judgment, fix it, get rid of it right now, because we don't have a better skill or a tool to reach for. So in this episode, I want to give you one. I want to start by covering the problem or the issue with critical self-talk after a loss. And you can probably guess what some of these are already. Grief demands a hell of a lot of you. It demands that you keep functioning while your internal and your external worlds have been rearranged. It demands that you show up as a functioning person at work, at school, you answer texts and emails, you feed yourself, perhaps others, and you exist in a body that is living with grief, all while constantly carrying something heavy and invisible. And on top of all of that, all those demands, many grieving people unconsciously or consciously add a second layer of suffering, which is self-criticism. So you might forget to buy something at the store and think, oh my God, what is wrong with me? Or you snap or become snitty with somebody that you love and think, oh my God, I'm becoming a terrible person. Or you cry in your car before a meeting and think, I really need to get my shit together. None of these thoughts account for the fact that you are grieving. They treat your grief-affected brain and body and behavior as though you should be operating at full pre-loss capacity, and then they punish you when you are not. This is where a lot of the clients and students that I work with get stuck, is this sort of place right here. Not because grief itself is the whole problem, but because critical self-talk gets layered on top of grief, and that combination of grief plus negative self-talk starts to feel like endless suffering, like unbearable, endless suffering. So I want to point out the difference between critical self-talk and compassionate self-talk. What's the difference if you've never heard this before? And I want to get into this because I'm such a word nerd. If you've been listening to the show long enough, you know I love words. I love nerding out about them. And when you're grieving, language matters. Let's start with critical. Critical, as an adjective, means to pass judgment or to point out defects or faults in. So this is what critical self-talk can sound like after a loss. It might sound like, look how grief has broken you. You're acting crazy. You can't do anything right. You deserve to be alone. Hold that for all that is for a moment. Compassionate, on the other side, as an adjective, means something entirely different. It is to companion in suffering or to offer tenderness with. Com in Latin literally means together or with, and passion means suffer. So to suffer alongside is to be compassionate, to be in the hard stuff with. So this is what compassionate self-talk sounds like after a loss. It's okay that grief has changed you. Your feelings are normal. It's okay not to have all the answers. We'll figure this out together. Notice the shift in these two types of self-talk after a loss. Critical self-talk positions you, the grieving person, as broken or wrong or failing or defective. Compassionate self-talk positions you, the griever, as a person going through something incredibly hard and also deserving of the same tenderness or kindness that you might offer a friend or a loved one. So it is worth asking yourself, when I make a mistake in grief, or I forget something, or I'm struggling to function, which voice do I default to? Am I critical or am I compassionate? And if you don't know, if you're struggling to answer this question, one of my favorite tidbits or tips for you is to try speaking your inner thoughts aloud. For many grieving people, the voice of criticism can come out harsher or meaner or frustrated, while the voice of compassion is usually very calming and empathetic. For example, the phrase, "you're not who you used to be," sounds so much different with a cruel tone, a critical tone, than it does with an understanding one. The first is judgmental, the second is kind. So to say, "you're not who you used to be," critical. "You're not who you used to be," compassionate. See if even speaking your inner thoughts aloud and the tone with which you speak them can help you recognize, are you being more critical towards yourself, or are you being more compassionate? Are you being more judgmental? Are you being more kind? See which one your thoughts most often fall into. The tool that I want to teach you today, it's something that I teach inside my free workshop, Grow Through Grief, which you can find in the show notes for this episode. And it is literally, like no joke, my students' favorite tool for creating instant self-compassion in grief. And it is this. All you have to do is add the phrase while grieving to whatever you're doing or thinking throughout your day. While grieving. It looks like this. You could say, I'm brushing my teeth while grieving. I'm getting groceries while grieving. I'm listening to this podcast while grieving. I'm answering emails while grieving. I am making dinner while grieving. I am sitting through a work meeting while grieving. I'm trying to fall asleep while grieving. I'm laughing at something funny while grieving. I am forgetting where I put my keys in the freezer syndrome, while grieving. I am showing up to a birthday party while grieving. I am scrolling my phone while grieving. I am having a hard time making a decision while grieving. I am living my life while grieving. The teeny tiny addition of these two words does two important things. The first thing it does is releases the frustration and the inner wrestling that comes from expecting yourself to function like your before loss, pre-loss self. Of course you forgot something on the bus. Of course that meeting at work felt harder than usual. Of course watching that TV show made you cry. You are doing all of that while grieving, which is an enormous invisible weight to carry on top of an ordinary task. Once I had a client who was struggling to go to the grocery store after her dad died. She was his caregiver, and she was really upset as to why it felt like such a hard task, when in her life before, going to the grocery store was like a mundane thing that she did every week. And I joked with her in the style of the Lord of the Rings meme, so if you know this, you know this. One does not simply go to the grocery store while grieving. And during our session, I said, not only are there carts and crowds at the grocery store, there is his favorite snack in aisle 4, a song he loved playing over the speaker system, a stranger who reminds you of him if you squint from far away. There are fluorescent lights that feel way too bright for grief brain. There is the beeping of the checkout station. Not to mention, when you get to the register, there's the financial stress of not knowing if you'll have the money to pay for this, and then the practical logistical stress of driving there and back amongst other drivers making whatever decisions they're going to make that day. And on top of that, there is carrying in and unloading the groceries and deciding where they go in your kitchen. Of course, grocery shopping is hard. You are grocery shopping while grieving. And just noticing, like, you are not just grocery shopping. You are not doing what you used to do in life before loss. You are doing everything that you used to do before loss, now with the added weight of grief. You are grocery shopping while grieving. Look at the amount of compassion that opens up. This is where we get to the second wonderful benefit of this phrase, because it is just as important. These two words open the door to noticing all of the incredible ways that you are still functioning, not in spite of your grief, but inclusive of it. Not in some future version of yourself that has grief like handled or has your shit together. This phrase, while grieving, celebrates who you are and what you are capable of right now while grieving. You got out of bed while grieving. You went to work while grieving. You showed up for your kid's recital or your friend's birthday party while grieving. These are not small things. What is happening is endurance and resilience in real time. So something I want you to ask yourself as you listen today is, what did I do today in this moment while grieving that deserves a little bit more credit than I have been giving it? Reflect on that. Get back to me. Send me an email. Comment on social media. I would love to hear what you are doing while grieving. Now I want to get into why this works. The psychology behind why while grieving is a really helpful phrase. These two words might feel too simple to be effective, but it is actually rooted in real and evidence-based psychology and data. There is a thing in therapy, or a type of therapy, called narrative therapy, which is a blame-free practice that helps clients rewrite their inner stories. And one of the foundational moves or tools is separating the person from the problem. So instead of your story being, I am broken, the rewrite of that, the rewrite of the narration in narrative therapy becomes, grief is affecting me a lot right now. I am not broken. I am a person operating inside of a broken experience. That really small shift in language matters, because when you get stuck inside of a problem, you create a story about yourself, thinking that you maybe are the source of your suffering, and it reinforces this painful identity of, I am the source of my suffering, there's no way out, I am stuck, and it makes it harder to access a more compassionate or accurate view of what is actually going on in your life. So adding while grieving is a form of narrative therapy. It externalizes the grief, it makes it so that you are not the problem, and it keeps grief from collapsing into your identity. It interrupts a story that says, I am the reason why my life is awful, and turns it into a kinder and, frankly, more truer one. I am a person doing my best to live inside of a really awful experience. There is also a body of research on what psychologists call self-distancing, which is popularized by the researcher Ethan Krauss and all of his colleagues. Their work suggests that even tiny, tiny shifts in language, how we speak about things, how we think about things with words, can create psychological distance from things that we find distressing, which helps us process the experiences that we're going through with more objectivity and less overwhelm. And my favorite part is the less overwhelm. Some of his research has even found that the amount of linguistic, verbal, words, distance that we use when talking about our struggles is connected to our symptoms of distress and how well we respond to healing treatments over time. In other words, put very simply, how you talk about what you're going through isn't just a reflection of how you feel, it can actually shape how you feel. Like you can change your feelings based on how you talk about them. So while grieving is a tiny 2-word act of linguistic distancing and narrative reframing wrapped into a phrase that is simple enough to use literally while you are doing the dishes, while grieving. I love this phrase so much, I can't even tell you. What I will also tell you, though, is that while grieving is just one teeny tiny tool inside of a bigger practice of rebuilding life after loss. While grieving is a wonderful starting point if you are anywhere in your life after loss, but it is not an all-purpose, like Swiss Army knife tool for your entire grief experience. It is a smaller lesson inside a bigger practice of weaving and folding loss into your life, which happens in the 3rd module, Integrate, of my 5-step grief method, GRIEF, Ground, Release, Integrate, Establish, and Foster, which all takes place inside of Life After Loss Academy. This 3rd module, the Integrate module, is all about learning how to fold your losses and your loved ones into the larger story of your life. So instead of treating grief as something that is separate from you, that you're supposed to eventually get over and leave behind, which we don't believe in on this show, it is something that helps you compassionately fold in grief with your life so that you are able to live alongside it as you move forward, as you rebuild again. And integrating compassionately feels dramatically different than integrating or trying to integrate while also criticizing yourself. Because when you try to integrate your grief with your life with criticism, it feels like you're failing. Like, why are you so broken? Why are you doing this? I need to get my shit together. Like, these are ways that you talk to yourself when you're critical. It feels like you are constantly falling short of who you used to be in the past and also who you want to become in the future. But when you integrate grief with a compassionate inner voice, aka saying while grieving and other helpful phrases, it feels like it is possible to grow. Like you are becoming someone new who still cares for what and who you've lost in the past, and that care includes you as well. So the compassion extends backwards in time into your life before loss, but also comes with you into the future. And this is where I get chills talking about it, because these are the super teeny tiny tools that dramatically change your perspective on what it looks like to live a life with grief. So the phrase while grieving is just one doorway into weaving your losses into the larger fabric or the picture of your life story. Inside this Integrate module, we go so much deeper into personalized and creative and kind of fun, dare I say it, fun ways to work with instead of fighting against grief. And this helps you build a life that is rooted in compassion for everything that you have been through, rather than a life filled with criticism for all the ways that you feel like you're falling short. And it makes such a huge difference when you are carrying the already heavy weight of grief. What I want to leave you with today is that you are allowed to be kind to yourself in the aftermath of loss. I think a lot of people think that the trick to getting through grief or getting over grief is disciplining themselves into wellness or being healed again. And like I said at the beginning of the show, if criticizing ourselves fixed everything, we would all be 110% healed, because this is how we talk to ourselves most of the time. But what I want to reassure you of is that you are not failing at grief or doing grief wrong because you forgot something or snapped at someone or needed to cancel plans. You are carrying something, living through something huge, and doing your best to keep on living while also grieving. And this deserves your compassion, not your criticism. So the next time that you notice a harsh inner voice creeping in, I hope you will try this instead. Name what you are doing and add while grieving. And notice what shifts in you emotionally, mentally, physically, even spiritually. See how rewriting your inner story impacts how you feel about living inside of it, because you have to live inside of it. There's no escaping your story. I'm so sad to say. Like, there is no escaping the things that have happened to you in your life. But you can be more compassionate to yourself as you live that life by using the phrase while grieving. If you loved this phrase, if you want 2 more of my students' favorite tools for building a life alongside grief, integrating grief into your life, I would love it if you would watch my free workshop called Grow Through Grief. It is a short, practical preview of everything that we do inside of Life After Loss Academy, and it is available whenever you are ready to watch it. It is just an hour long, and you can find it in the link in my bio. I hope this brings you some comfort, an opportunity to play with words, and a doorway into releasing the voice of criticism that maybe lives inside your head while grieving. That's all for this episode of Grief Grower. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're looking for grief support beyond this show, you can find my free workshop, blog articles, and my new book, Of Course I'm Here Right Now, at shelbyforsythia.com/links. And if you'd like to get support from me for your unique loss experience, you can join me at any time inside Life After Loss Academy, my online course and community. As a student, I will walk you through my 5-step grief framework, GRIEF, for rebuilding after loss, and you can get live coaching from me every single week to answer your questions. Replays are always available if you can't attend live. It's just $33 a month to join, or $22 a month if you're a marginalized or financially stressed griever, and you pick the price that works best for you. If this podcast felt validating, comforting, educational, or otherwise helpful to you, please subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And be sure to share Grief Grower with a friend, because you never know what someone you love is going through. Grief Grower is hosted by me, Shelby Forsythia, with theme music by Addie Goldstein. Until next time, Grief Growers, I see you. I am so proud of you and the work that you're doing in the world while grieving, and I love you. Because even through grief, we are growing.